Welcome to another episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? Thanks so much for coming back. And if this is your first time because my lovely guest, Louella Bryant, invited you, hey, I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Louella.
Hi, Karen. Good to see you.
It's good to be with you. So I'm your host, Karen E. Osborne, and I want to tell you a little bit about my guest today. So she's like a Renaissance woman. So she's an award-winning author of novels, picture books, memoir, short story collection. She's a former professor of creative writing. She's a blogger, a writing group facilitator, and an independent editor. She has her own editing business she operates out of Lincoln, Vermont. So isn't that impressive? So we're going to have a hard time narrowing our topics today, but we're going to try and get as much done as we can. And today is launch day. Congratulations, Pub Day. That's like so exciting. So today, and your book is called Sheltering Angel, which is such a great name. So we're going to talk about that book in just a minute, but you're so prolific. You write in so many different mediums, different approaches. You have so many projects out there. How do you balance all of that? How do you balance your writing, your marketing, your life, your editing business? How do you make that all work?
Well, first of all, I'm a Gemini, so we multitask very easily. And secondly, I get bored if I have only one thing to do. So I find if I'm working on editing a manuscript, then I'm also writing a new manuscript. And if I get stuck, then I read poetry or I write. I just finished a new poem, so I'm pretty excited about that. And the other thing is I'm married to a hockey player who is either playing hockey or watching hockey. And I can just sort of escape. I mean, sometimes I do watch hockey with him, but I can escape up to my office and shut the door. And then, we're sort of separated. And then we come back together when it's convenient. So I'm really fortunate. He also vacuums and washes dishes. Otherwise, the house would never get vacuumed. So there's a lot going on, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love being busy. I love engaging my brain and being intellectually active. I should be more physically active, but I'm working on that.
So that is so interesting. I just asked, I was just doing an interview right before this one, and one of the questions I asked is, how long does it take to write a book? and I asked a group of 11 and 12-year-olds how long they thought. I was speaking at a class, and they said 2 weeks. And then, and then one of them said 4 years.
Wow.
So when you are when you're trying to do like different things, does that slow down the amount of time it takes you to complete a project? Or how would you answer the question, how long does it take?
It takes as long as it takes. I wrote a short memoir, I consider short, about 130 pages. And that took me probably 2 years to write. I'd done a lot of research previously in my family lineage. Cowboy Code, which is the book, one of the books up here.
Yeah, show us.
This one took, get this one took 20 years to write.
Wow.
The reason for that is because I couldn't find the point of view voice. So it's the story of 3 women in Appalachia. And I first tried it from the mother's voice, and that didn't work. And then I tried alternating voices, and that didn't work. And then I found the 14-year-old daughter's voice. So it becomes a coming of age story. And that seemed to work really well. And then, the process is so messy. So I thought it was about two women, and then suddenly, and Karen, I know this is true for you too, this character popped into the book, and she was a lesbian, and she fell in love with the 14-year-old's mother. And I'm like,
What?
this is based on my mother's life. I can't turn my mother into a lesbian. And I wrote her out and sent her away. And by God, she came back and threatened to take over the book. And that's when, as the author, you have to be in charge and say, okay, you can be here, but you have to be a minor character. And she seemed okay with that, but she left the door open for a sequel. So we may see her again. So that book took 20 years. And the funny thing about that book is the editor found me. I didn't even send it out. I wasn't going to get it published because it's very personal to me. And then the Sheltering Angel, I don't have the book yet because it's not in my hands yet.
At the moment, yes.
I haven't opened the box yet. Has taken me about 8 years to write. So anywhere I'd say from 2 years to 20 years is how long it takes to write a book. I can't imagine writing one in 2 weeks. And they have this NaNoWriMo program in November where you have to write an entire book in a month, the month of November. And I don't even try to do that.
I did that twice with my son and my grandson. And my grandson, who got all 50,000 words of his book done in the month, because he had it down to what, like 1,600 words a day or something like that.
Wow.
And he would contact me, and because he could see my progress. And he'd say, Grammy, you're behind. You are behind. And I'd say, well, okay, but I'm doing, no, do the math. You
do the math.
Do the math. So I told him, I said, I respond more to encouragement than being called out. But so he didn't invite me the next year. He didn't ask me to do it with him again.
That's dear.
So tell me a little bit about how you do research. You mentioned that, that it takes you time to do research. Do you get all your research done before you start writing? Do you do it while you're writing? Is it a mix? How does that work for you?
The way it works for me is I come up with the story idea first. And I have to say, in most cases, the story idea comes to me. And I know you've had this experience, Karen, where my very first book, I'd never written a book before. And I took my son to, he was doing a paper on the Underground Railroad. I think he was in 8th grade. And there was an Underground Railroad stop in Burlington, Vermont, supposedly. And it had been turned into an elder housing. It's this huge mansion. And so supposedly it sheltered fugitive slaves. So we went there on a field trip, and the proprietor took us down into the basement so we could see where they were housed. And the strangest thing happened. Do you know how when there's a ghost in the room, the temperature drops?
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly I got really cold, and I heard this voice saying, "Write my story." And I said, I was teaching high school English at the time, and I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I heard the voice again, and I would hear it about every week. And then by summertime, I was hearing it all the time. And so I sat down, and I swear to this day, I did not write that book. It flowed out of me. And it's Charity's book. It's now out of print. I'm just in the process of turning it into an ebook, hopefully an audiobook. And it has been under contract to be translated into a play for children, for young adults. It's a young adult book.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful.
So my son did research on the Underground Railroad in Burlington, Vermont, and that got me started with wanting to know more about it. And it was really fascinating to me. So once I had the draft, then I had to go back and do the research to fill in the details.
Yeah.
You really have to do the details. So in Sheltering Angel, I did a lot of research on the characters who are real people who
So
were
tell us the
telling.
premise first
Oh,
before you
okay.
tell us how you reached it. Give us just a sense of what the book is about.
The premise of all my books is about breaking down social, economic, and racial boundaries to just break up those borders. And all of my books have dealt with that. A lot of them are about race. Beside the Long River is about Native Americans, the Pequot Nation that were slaughtered by the English in 1636. And that particularly, I want my books to be social commentaries. I
Mhm.
want them to be educational for, especially for younger readers, for teen readers and young adult readers. Um,
So is
so,
Sheltering Angel a young adult book?
well, and, I really, it could be a young adult book. Sure, why not? Yeah, it could be an adult book. My publisher doesn't have categories, so I believe any books are for everybody. And the only people who really want to categorize them are librarians because they
Well,
have to figure
bookstores
it out for a
too.
YA. I'm sorry,
Bookstores too. Bookstores, they want to know
bookstores.
where on the shelf they should put you. But anyway, so tell us about this book. Just give us a sense of what the story is about.
The story is about, it's based on the true story of my husband's great grandparents who were in first class on the Titanic, and their steward, who is a working class Scotsman. And here again, I'm breaking down social barriers because there is this ancient connection between the steward and the Cummings couple, who are my husband's great grandparents. He's descended from Scottish royalty. And so his great grandfather's Scottish clan were allies with the Stuart Scottish clan, and this is absolutely historically accurate. So there is an alliance there that creates a sort of supernatural connection between the steward and this first class couple. So the other thing about his great grandmother is that even though she was high society and very wealthy, she worked in the shelter houses in the inner cities in Boston and New York, helping young women who were homeless or working as prostitutes and helping them learn to read and get jobs, get respectable jobs and housing. And that's very true about her. She actually, when she died, left an enormous amount of money to charities, especially for children. She was raised by a Unitarian minister and his wife, and so she really didn't believe in social distinctions. So I have her, as the ship is going down, refuse to get into a lifeboat until the third class is released from the steerage section because
Mhm.
they were locked in at night and this happened, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that part is accurate, but certainly that's her character.
Yeah,
Is that,
that's what she would seem like. Wow,
yeah.
that is so interesting. That's exciting. Um, so as you what made me I have so many questions in my head because you have such a rich story. You said earlier that what you like, you want to educate and you want to break down these barriers. And so with Sheltering Angel, which sounds like a perfect title for this, is she the sheltering angel? Is the
It comes from an old Celtic blessing about the sheltering angel will warm you, the sheltering angel will keep you from harm. And it's a blessing that the steward taught to his son. And that
Mhm.
as he's in the water swimming for his life, he feels the presence of this sheltering angel. And then he actually swims. And this was what's amazing. I don't want to give the whole story away, but
Yeah, don't do that.
he swims to Florence's lifeboat and she pulls him aboard. But he's in the water and this is actually true. He testified after the fact in the hearings that followed. He should have died of hypothermia within 15 minutes. He swam
Mm.
for a half an hour. and had no ill effects whatsoever. So there is sort of something really sort of miraculous and supernatural about the story that's absolutely true as well.
Wow, wow, wow. You have got me totally intrigued. I hope that she's got you intrigued and that you want to read this book. So we're running out of time. So I normally I'd ask for book recommendations. If you could give us
Oh gosh.
brief brief one for our audience because we need to wrap up.
Yeah, for 3 years I read nothing but the writing of African American women, and probably Toni Morrison would be at the top of my list. And anything by Flaubert or Gabriel Garcia Marquez, when I get stuck, those are kind of the three writers I go to. Love in the Time of Cholera is one of my very favorite books by
Mhm.
Marquez. So those are, if that's enough, I could give
So
you a lot more.
that's excellent. As a creative writing professor, ex-professor, I know that at that part of our conversation could be a whole nother whole nother interview. So
Right,
I
right.
I thank you for just sharing a few with our audience. And if you have questions, so suppose they have questions. I mean, you've put so many interesting ideas and thoughts out there. How can people be in touch with you?
They can go to my website, luellabryant.com. And it's a new website and it's pretty spiffy. And so I keep three blogs, and the blogs are all on the website as well. There's a lot on there to explore and play with.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. So I hope you will do that. I hope you guys will check out Louella Bryant. You'll go to her website. I hope you'll buy Sheltering Angel and let her know that you heard about it on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Until next week, thanks so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Karen.